Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about TSR. And just let's do a retrospective, right? Let's do a post-mortem, because boy, is that what we're talking about. This is a post-mortem on TSR. Boy, man, like this TSR thing was not surprising at all that the TSR launch ended in tears and flames, but it was absolutely shocking how fast it happened. It just happened so quickly. It's hard to even just put it in perspective. What occurred, why it happened so fast. So fast. All right? So I just want to talk about the numbers. Let's just talk about the numbers, okay? So 1974 to 1977, TSR won, right? All the companies I'm going to talk about were we're going to talk about three companies. There have been three companies to date, three gaming companies that have used the name TSR, okay? And specifically attached it to the legacy of being the creator of Dungeons and Dragons, or being adjacent to the legacy of being Dungeons and Dragons, saying, hey, we're using these letters knowingly, and actually going and getting the actual license, the actual, the official TSR gravitas, right? Man, it just is astounding to me here to see how fast this happened. 1974 to 1997, you have TSR 1, okay? There's one TSR between 1974 and 1997, okay? 1997, TSR is gone. It has been completely bought out by Wizards of the Coast, okay? We don't see between 1997, okay? Between 1997 and 2012, I'm pretty sure that for TSR2, I'm not positive of the years, but these are approximate, and it's fairly close, okay, to my knowledge. Please correct me if you have better information. So from 1997 to 2012, there are zero TSR companies. Zero TSR companies, okay? 2012, someone resurrects TSR and does virtually nothing with it, right? They make a product here, a product there. I think they made the top secret game, right? It's a mess, and they did so little with the name it barely mattered, right? So from 2012 to June 2021, there is one TSR, okay? One TSR, right? And that's TSR2. And they have the name, and they're doing virtually nothing with it, okay? Nothing that really is significant at the global scale, right? And that's the metric, because Dungeons & Dragons is a global intellectual property. It's a big one. It needs to be a lot bigger. It's still much smaller than it should be, but it is legitimately an international global IP, right? Of course, created in America, still driven for its vision in America, and still very much an element of Americana, okay? So you have TSR 2. Between 2012 and 2021, you have one TSR. Then, for a brief shining moment, in June 2021, you have two TSRs. Another company comes in with the name of TSR, okay? And that's TSR 3. This one has Jim Ward attached, and it has Ernest Gary Gygax attached, who's Gary Gygax, one of Gary Gygax's son. So this has, and Jim Ward is attached, right? And also, Easley, it wasn't Easley. Elmore's attached, but just doing a few pieces of art, right? But he's still attached, right? So for literally not even a single month, for a matter of weeks, in June 2021, there are two TSRs, right, in existence, making three TSRs that have ever existed, two TSRs existing for a brief shining moment simultaneously, and before July 2021 is out, right, there are zero TSRs right now. There are zero TSRs again. The name TSR, I think it's Tactical Studies Research, right? It's kind of weird. And it's like a gaming term that, kind of goes back from how Dungeons & Dragons burst out of the cocoon of wargaming, right? So you have 0 TSRs at this point. And what are the lessons learned, right? Now, I've already talked about some lessons learned as far as if you're of an older age, you really should get an interpreter when you're talking on Twitter, right? Okay? So I put that one there. There's another there's a couple other lessons. One, unless you are not paying attention, please recognize TSR is cursed. It has never been a good guardian for any game. It either does very little and people ignore it. And that was TSR 2. TSR 1, it ran the business into the ground, in my humble opinion. TSR 3, they just had a fundamental misunderstanding of what Twitter was. And I think a lot of people would say, well, social media. No, Twitter destroyed TSR 3 in a matter of weeks. Just tore it to shreds and left the body in a ditch. It was just like, and that's the next lesson. People need to recognize, if you are going to launch a tabletop role-playing game company, okay, first of all, tabletop role-playing games can bounce up into fame quite quickly, right? Like, they can be picked up by some serious, if you have an interesting concept, it can be picked up by some serious media outlets very, very quickly, right? So you can get fame very quickly just by launching a tabletop role-playing game. It's not guaranteed, but it is absolutely within the realm of possibility. So if you have a tabletop role-playing game company and you are going to launch, you need to go look at every question that was asked to TSR 3, and also every question that was asked to the company that owns Lamentation of the Flame Princess, and just go do a little bit of research. Oh, Vampire the Masquerade, the newest Vampire the Masquerade that came out in like 2018, 2019. All of these companies did an absolutely atrocious job of dealing with Twitter. Twitter has no less than 100. I think you can pare it down to 100 questions. Twitter has 100 questions that it will ask you on day one. And if you don't have a solid answer on every single one of those questions, you got no business being in the tabletop role-playing game industry. Okay, you really don't. Like, just print up your little booklet and play with your friends at your dining room table. If you don't have a list of 100 Twitter questions when you launch your tabletop role-playing game, and you don't know exactly what answers will literally make your company burst into flames and lose every dime you had within a month, you have no business being in the tabletop role-playing game business. Also, we need to realize this. Twitter decides who remains in the tabletop role-playing game industry. This is not debatable, right? The Twitter community absolutely said, we will not allow TSR to remain in business. They said it and they did it, right? Like, they were just like, you're done. You're not going to be able to go to any conventions. That's the first thing we're going to take from you, and you will definitely be out of the business of tabletop role-playing game. Now, I am making absolutely no. First of all, I don't co-sign anything that TSR 3 threw down. I don't think I agreed with a single word they said, right? But so I'm not saying that TSR was. I'm certainly not saying TSR was right? But I'm also not saying TSR was wrong. What I'm saying is there's a hard fact on the ground that must be acknowledged by literally everyone who publishes a tabletop role-playing game. You must understand, Twitter can decide at any moment that you will be out of business, okay? And if you don't have a plan to deal with Twitter, you're going to be done. You're going to be toast. You're going to be a corpse in a ditch, right? Your company will be a figurative corpse in a figurative ditch. You'll be finished, right? Like, and this is clear because I watch OGGM and he, for like the first 2 weeks he was squawking, "This is kayfabe," right? They know what they're doing. They're just getting attention. And then he watched the corpse of TSR3 burst into flames and get consumed by the flames, and everyone involved lost pretty much all their money, right? Like, and like the whole thing was just a pile of tears and flames. And he's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I was wrong. It wasn't kayfabe. It wasn't planned. Right? It was just a complete, absolute train wreck, and everybody involved was consumed by the flames. Right? Like, and only their tears gave them brief solace from the pain. Right? Like, like it was a mess. It was like I had never seen anything like that. So we just. This is new. We didn't know this before. Twitter decides who remains in business in tabletop role-playing games. That's a fact. That is a fact, right? And come at me in the comments below if you think I'm wrong. I'd love to hear it. That's my opinion. What's your opinion? I'd love to hear it. Let me know in the comments below. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.